welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And this is the technology show that demystifies all those weird buzzwords and all the technology that you use every day. And Sean's buzzing.
You're going to demystify that in a few minutes.
Are you? Okay,
yeah.
Very good, very good. Today on the show, I'm very excited today because not only do we get to cover alternative energy efforts for gadgets, to power gadgets, but we also get to talk about frozen legumes, like chickpeas.
Legumes? I had frozen legumes once.
Yeah, it probably wasn't very, very good at all.
Wasn't much fun.
No. So, yes, it's the return of the food demo. We're going to talk about solar power and wind power and that sort of thing.
A bit of hydrogen, too.
A little bit of hydrogen, too.
A little bit.
And I'll refrain from making a gas joke there. So I'm kind of very excited about today's show. Are you?
I'm totally excited about this.
Good.
Gassiness aside.
And the other good thing is that we have a return of Biff and Boo, the cats.
They've been gone?
Yeah, they have been gone. They've been gone because we moved to a new studio. And the boys moved to my house. Well, they were always in my house, but they moved to my new house. And so we haven't seen them around. And people have been saying, hey, what happened to the cats? So,
We've gotten letters.
Yeah, we have.
We
absolutely.
have.
It's true. It's amazing, actually. You guys actually care more about the cats than the technology sometimes.
There you go. Where's the cats? Where's the food demos? Well, guess what? Both of them in one episode.
Hooray. It's the
Triumphant return.
triumphant return of the food demo of the cats. And speaking of cats, let's check in with them before we go to break. This episode brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 25% off today by visiting hover.com/labrats. Now, I always like to use foods from around the house to demonstrate how technology works. I think it makes it hyper successful because people really kind of can relate to what's in their fridge, and then they make the jump to technology, and then, of course, I have lunch as well.
It's a metaphor and a tasty one, too.
And a tasty one as well.
So you're going to have to explain, how do these chickpeas help us understand how it's solar power you're going to demonstrate?
Well, yeah,
here,
so
right?
you've got a whole, later in the show, you're going to see a whole bunch of technology that's actually available today.
Yeah, don't look yet. Don't look yet.
That's right, for your gadgets. And so before we get to that, I want to explain sort of how solar power, which is probably the primary and most, something that's been around a long, long time in terms of alternative fuel, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been the most long-lived of all these. You've seen them in the past. You've seen like the old solar-powered calculators with the tiny little bar that will help charge the calculator up. You can run it when it's sunny out.
Right.
So that's been around for years. There have been gigantic solar panel farms out in the desert. There's been solar panels on top of houses in Japan, for example. Not so much in North America, but it's been around for a while. It hasn't really caught on all that much in a lot of ways, but it's starting to catch on in terms of this category we're talking about, little quick solutions for charging your gadgets when you're on the go.
Right, right.
So we're going to take a look at that. But
first, let's talk about how it works, because that's probably the
work?
most famous alternative fuel, and now it's making it to gadgets. It's worth having a look at, how it really works. So, so the solar cell that is used to generate electricity is actually a semiconductor, right? So it's a conductor of electricity. And so I have what amounts to a semiconductor here. It's actually a sandwich, right, of two pieces of cardboard. But let's pretend it's a...
So semiconductors made out of cardboard, check.
Now let's say it's made out of silicon.
Okay.
And and what it is this photosensitive material that innately can conduct electricity. So electricity, of course, is electrons, which are negatively charged particles that flow, right? So in order to do that, let's use some chickpeas.
So these are electrons?
So these are electrons,
okay,
right, sitting inside the semiconductor. Let's put a whole bunch of them there. Because what we really want to do to make electricity is to actually make the electrons flow from one direction to another.
Yes, that's, I guess, the question. Where do the electrons come from?
And
apparently they come from a plastic tub.
They come from chickpea farm. No, so electrons are just, negatively charged particles in materials, right? So.
All right.
So I'm going to put a whole bunch of them here. Now,
how's your hand? Is it a bit cold?
It's getting a little cold, yeah. It's chickpea deliciousness.
Okay.
So you've got, particles or charged particles inside of a semiconductor, right? So in order to make these things useful as energy, you want to make them flow,
Okay.
right? So when it comes to the sun, right? So the sun's beaming down onto the semiconductor, right? And you can think
So-
in terms of
so-
light,
So we've got like a panel here, and it's basically hitting this panel.
right? So the
Okay.
light. So this, my chickpea sandwich, is actually one of those.
This. So imagine this as this.
Right. Now, light comes down. Now, depending on if you remember your high school physics, grade 10 class, right? Light is either a wave or it's a particle. And when we talk about light as particles, it's something called a photon. This is just a little dot of light that moves, right? So I have some particles here, which is actually my wife's whole-wheat macaroni. So
Does
there'll
she
be no-
know that you have that?
She doesn't actually right now. No, she doesn't.
She will once she sees this.
So when light comes down, it kind of rains down photons, okay? So imagine this, right? So this is coming down onto the particles, and it's bouncing off of our semiconductor. Now, there's a lot of them, though, right?
Yes.
In fact, you need a lot of light to generate one of these things. So you need lots
Yes.
of particles, and we're talking trillions and trillions and trillions of particles hitting the surface of the semiconductor.
Yeah, I guess just imagine the resolution of your screen on your computer, on your notebook or whatever, and then just imagine how much more it would have to be to actually send that kind of information in real life at the resolution we're seeing.
Right, exactly.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, so I can't really simulate, a ton of photons because
When the hammer comes out, the expensive stuff goes away.
we just don't have the budget for 4 tons of, photons.
All right.
But so I'm going to simulate it by using a hammer. So the photons are coming down onto the substrate, right, onto the material, with the photons inside. Well, excuse me, with the electrons inside, right? And it hits, quite a wallop once you get enough of them, right? So when you do it,
Oh!
what happens is, as you can see, the kinetic energy of the photons is actually going to make the electrons move.
Your electrons got squashed
And
there.
I kind of mushed them up. But anyway, but you get the idea, right? So there's energy coming in the form of very fine little particles of light, but there's so much of it that when it hits the materials, it actually aggravates these electrons and makes them flow.
But thankfully, it doesn't poke a hole in the front of your solar panel.
No, it doesn't.
All right.
So you get the sense of, that's a very crude way of explaining, how solar panels work.
Yeah,
but
and
you
yeah,
get the idea, right?
You get the idea, and obviously it channels them into a certain place rather than just spreading them all
that's
out
pretty-
across
yeah,
the table.
it actually forces them into a particular direction, which causes a flow, which causes, anyway, you get the idea.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll put my lunch away now. When do you get into the real stuff now?
Well, really quickly, we talked about solar, and we also talked about wind as well. So just very quickly, how a wind generator works. We don't have fancy props for that. It uses magnetic energy, and this is a wind thing. And when it spins around, basically, it's cranking a magnetic field, and it's pushing the electronics out through magnetism, essentially.
Right.
So that's the really quick, down and dirty thing, and we'll put up a link that shows where you can go for more information about that.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
there we go. You have showed off how that works.
Yes.
Our maid is going to be so thrilled
So-
about this.
So this is going to be, so now this technology is now coming to gadgets, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually power your cell phone and things like that.
Yeah. So the practical uses of this, basically,
Yeah.
is we've had this for a long time. Like I said, in calculators earlier on, they exist in solar panels. They're pretty expensive to buy gigantic solar panels to power your house. People have talked about going off the grid, putting solar in their home, and basically being able to feed electricity back to the power grid so that you don't actually spend money to the electrical company to power your house. Is it practical at this point? Maybe not so much, because it's kind of expensive. To get the panel. There's thousands and thousands of dollars. You have to do all the wiring. But from a practical perspective, anyone can grab a little device like this that we have from Solio, which is called the Hybrid, and essentially gather electricity from it and power their gadgets. So you've got your iPhone, you've got your iPod, you've got another phone. They use small amounts of energy rather than what you do to power your TV, your computer, your fridge, your microwave. All of that takes a lot of power. These generate power a little bit slowly, which is why to power big things, you need gigantic panels.
Right. So you want to power your house, you need
Right.
things the size of your roof.
Exactly.
But these things are very expensive on a per square footage basis, right?
Right. They're pretty expensive. Now these ones right here, we've got these small ones here. These about $100 to $200 depending on what size and gadget that you get. This one right here is about $100. That's because it also has a battery built into it. Again, this is Soleo. It's a hybrid device. You can actually plug it into the wall to charge up the battery that way when you're at home to have a little kick of power when you're out in the field. Or you can just allow it to charge from the sun. So
Now, does it have to be a super sunny day? Does it have to be? It
helps.
Like you have to be on a beach in Jamaica.
you can get it charged, but very slowly when it's a very cloudy day. But yeah, you definitely want a sunny day to make it work better.
Right.
Then essentially what you do after you've charged it up, it's all charged up, then you pull this cord out and you've got a little gadget here and or a little connector here, and you can attach the tip for the things that you want. So you've now got this USB plug here. We've got this other one which is a mini USB. We've got this other one right here which we connect to it that is essentially for a small phone or PDA.
Nokia, yeah.
So there's a number of different tips available for this one. Same thing for this other Soleo product. This is the Soleo Magnesium. Magnesium because that's the backing of it. So it spreads out into 3 prongs here. And then, again, on this side you've got 3 solar panels to get more electricity into it. You've got the connector here, which comes out from this, and then you've got, again, all of these tips here that you can use to connect to different phones. Again, a lot of Nokia stuff probably. And you've also got one that will turn it into standard USB power. So it's about 5 volts. It's not a lot of energy that's coming out of this, and this is why it's not practical for charging your computer. It's good for charging your gadget like your phone, your MP3 player, anything that uses USB charging capabilities.
Right. Oh, so even GPS, for example, this would be actually an ideal technology to put on your dashboard, for example, charge your GPS, right?
Exactly. So a lot of these come, like this one right here, you see it has a little hole in the center here.
Yeah.
You could put a little sticky thing through it and actually stick this to your window to gather the electricity, so that when this comes out, it's actually stuck from the center there, potentially. So there's ways to do that. So yeah, ideal for anything that you're running inside the car that you don't want to jack into your cigarette lighter.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, good. So, and then, so these gadgets, they're expensive?
This one right here, the Magnesium is about $169.
Oh, so it is expensive then?
That one's expensive. You can
Wow.
get this one a little bit cheaper if you don't go for the Magnesium edition.
Right.
And you can get various panels. We'll show you this last thing. There's a company called Hymini, Hymini, and they've got these panels, and they're about $20 for the panels, 25 maybe.
Oh, that's pretty good, yeah.
And you have to buy this with the system. So, and again, it attaches to this right here, which is actually a wind turbine. So we've talked about wind earlier. So this one right here can generate a little bit of electricity via wind, but it can also gather it via the solar panels. So you just essentially plug this in to that, and that'll start charging the battery from solar panels, or from solar electricity. You can actually jack in another one like this.
Right.
So now you've got 2 of them, and they're all looped through, gathering more.
No, wait a second though. So I'm getting solar power here. Why am I charging this? Or does this have an onboard battery?
There's a battery on this one
I
as
see.
well.
Right.
So the nice thing about this one, I love this system, because we've known about solar charging thanks to Soleo for a while.
Yeah.
What I love about this one is, like I said, it's also got this wind generator. It looks like just a little spinny fan that you would see on the front of a bicycle. And that's exactly what you can do. You can mount it onto your bicycle handlebars.
Yeah.
But here's the trick, and we're going to show Matt. Are you ready to shoot this, Matt?
I think so.
So when you have it on your handlebars, wind goes through it, usually in the other direction, but you see a little green light there that goes on when it's getting electricity.
Ooh.
And now it's basically
Clever.
charging the battery when you do that.
Right.
And again, same thing is you've got this little adapter that you can plug into it to send electricity back out again.
Of course. That's very exciting.
And actually, this one goes into, there's a USB plug here, and you would plug your USB adapters into that. And there's a bunch of adapters they have to plug in your other gear.
So price points for these guys?
Price points vary. Again, these are within like the $20 to $30 range for each of the components, and it's a modular system, so you can start here and then add this. if you want. And if you want, they've actually used another thing that's very similar to the wind power on this. Is called a dynamo, which you basically put on the wheel of your car or your bicycle, and every time it goes around, it generates a little bit of power and sends it back into that as well.
No, cool. So it's a full bike system.
It's a full bike system, and you can actually use it just outside. You can attach
but
it to a window.
What I want to know is, does it come with those bike streamers? Off the handlebars?
Well, I suppose you could always turn these into streamers. I guess not. So looking forward into the future, one of the things that people have been talking about is hydrogen.
Oh, yeah.
And hydrogen has gotten a lot of hype from the scientists.
Yeah, by now, we were supposed to have hydrogen-powered cars, and it was a hydrogen economy and that sort of thing.
Hydrogen economy, exactly.
Yeah.
The problem with the economics of that is it's costlier to generate hydrogen than it is to just use the power that you're getting in the first place. So you have to create hydrogen. Hydrogen doesn't just float around in the form that we need it.
No, it's sitting in water, or it's sitting in methane, or it's sitting in a hydrocarbon of some sort, and it's locked into something else, right?
Right. So to get the hydrogen out to power the car, you need to crack it free of these things. And at this point, the electricity that you need to crack it free is more costly than just using that electricity to power the car. Okay. So not so good. Now, it could become a little bit more affordable in the future thanks to solar. Now, we saw on the lab with Leo a while back, I had this gadget. It was really cool. It's a hydrogen-powered toy car called the A-Tracer. And it comes with this little water well and electrodes in it. And you can use a battery to basically break it into hydrogen. So you inflate this little hydrogen pouch.
So you use batteries to crack the hydrogen which powers the car.
Right.
Or you could use power the car with the batteries.
Right. But the other thing
doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah. The other thing that it does have is it comes with a little solar panel as well, so you can actually set it up and run it that way. So for a toy, it's kind of efficient to do it. But if you want to do that for your real car, well, you'd have to basically park your car for several weeks in order to drive it a couple hours. So it's not particularly efficient at this point.
And that's why we don't have a hydrogen economy yet.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about cost effectiveness in this. That's cost effective to create a toy car, but when we're talking about for the average consumer, getting a hydrogen car would require an infrastructure that had hydrogen filling stations, that had the hydrogen powered by solar farms that were elsewhere, and right now there's just not the capacity for that. So maybe it's coming. I know that in the States, more recently, they were talking about making that a priority of the new administration. So we'll see. We'll see if that goes anywhere. It may not.
There you go. Okay, well, there you go. So alternative fuel sources for your gadgets today on LabRats. Any final thoughts before we go to break? What about like cow-powered, or I know there was sort of whole manure-powered or garbage-powered kind of technologies?
Yeah, it'll work, but it's probably a little bit stinky. I think right now solar is the really big thing. There's a whole pile of gadgets out there. There's a voltaic backpack that you can use to charge your gadgets.
Yeah, we saw an Energizer a battery, like a charger thing at CES this year, right?
So rechargeable batteries with a solar panel.
Yeah,
basically.
just kind of cool idea. So I mean, it can make its way into the mainstream.
Yeah, and we even saw a solar-powered jacket from Scott eVest a while back.
So. Scott eVest, right? Yeah.
Which a little bit geeky looking. I don't know. I'd be wanting to walk around with that all the time, unless you really wanted to make a fashion statement. I'm a dork. But it's a
solar-powered dork.
I'm a solar-powered dork. I'm an environmentally conscious solar-powered dork. It's a really cool product, but it has its limited fashion-wise. So.
All right, well, with that, let's take a break. This commercial is actually solar-powered, so enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 25% off today by visiting hover.com/labrats. They don't taste so good once you've hammered them, do they?
No, they don't.
They taste a bit cardboardy.
I don't know. Chickpeas, frozen chickpeas defrosted on a television set is not necessarily a good snack.
Take note.
Take note, there you go. Another tip from LabRats. Okay, well, let's take a break again, because Mr. Jay Goldman is back with another episode of Mr. Mobile. And when we come back, we've got your pictures as well as a T-shirt giveaway. That's next on LabRats.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman, and you're watching Mr. Mobile. Today we're going to take a look at an iPhone application called Shopper that helps you keep your shopping list organized. You can pick it up in the iPhone App Store for $1.99. Let's take a look. Just before I jump into the application itself, you notice that it's got a badge notification on it showing me 3 items. That's because I currently have a shopping list in there that has 3 items I still need to pick up. So the notification helps you to remember how many items are still outstanding if the application isn't running right now, and that might happen if you're in the store and you get a call on your phone and you have to leave the application and jump back into it. So I'm going to tap on it to bring it up, and that'll take me right into my list of lists. Now in this case I only have one list, which is my groceries, and so I can tap on that list, and that'll take me into it, and you can see that it's categorized here into dairy, breads, and beverages, and in those I've added a couple of items. One thing you might note is that it gives me the ability to specify the number or quantity of each item. So in this case, because I'm really thirsty, I need to pick up 2 cartons of orange juice. Tapping on the orange juice itself takes me into a screen where I can specify some things about it. And so if I wanted to track prices, I could actually do that in here, and it will calculate things like taxes for me. I'm not going to do that, but you do have the option. And jumping back out to my shopping list, I can very easily add items by tapping on the plus sign, typing in a little bit of it. So for example, let's say that I really like orange juice and I'd like to pick up some actual oranges. So as soon as I start typing, it filters its list, and I can see oranges are right here. When I tap on it, it shows me the little up and down arrows, which lets me pick a quantity. So let's say I'd like to buy 4 oranges. And then I can hit done, and that will take me back out to my list. And you can see that we've now got a fruit section in here that's got 4 oranges. As soon as I pick an item up in the store, all I need to do is tap on the little checkbox, and it will automatically remove the item for me. See that great little animation showing me that it's come down here into my shopping cart. I can tap on the shopping cart at any time and see the items that are actually in it. And when I'm finished with this, I can actually just remove everything that ended up in there, but I can keep the list itself if I'd like to reuse it again. A couple of neat little configuration options that you got in here. If you jump into the configuration, you can choose to display things in groups or not. You can say what double tapping does, so I've got it set to uncheck or check the item itself. You can say what appears on your home badge, so in my case, I've got it set to all lists, but you can say that I'd only like it to be the current list. Calculate taxes and what percentage they are, and whether you want to be warned when you're deleting things. The other thing you can do, which is actually very useful, is email this shopping list to somebody else. So if, for example, you wanted your husband or wife to go and do the shopping for you, you could send them the list and then they can go and take care of that. And lastly, I can add new lists whenever I'd like by clicking on the plus button here and just specifying the items that I need for my list. So again, you can pick Shopper up in the iPhone App Store. It's $1.99 right now. Highly recommended over the other shopping programs. I found it was definitely the best group of features, and the things that I needed for it to do were all in there, missing from some of the other shopping applications. So Shopper, highly recommended. Check out other episodes of Mr. Mobile on the Butterscotch.com website, or some of the other great tech shows that are part of the family. I'm Jay Goldman. This has been Mr. Mobile. Thanks for watching.
So pictures. Is it time for pictures?
It is time
It's
for
time for
pictures.
pictures. Would you like a semi-frozen chickpea?
You sold it so well just before we went to Jay that I'm going to say no.
Uncooked macaroni?
No.
Okay. We have pictures then?
Yes, we got some pictures.
Yay!
Those
Okay,
won't
good.
hurt my stomach.
All right.
All right, so we've got, first up, we got from Dylan.
Yeah.
Points unknown. Send your location when you send us your photograph. And he's showing us his setup here. It looks like he's got a Macintosh and a secondary monitor. I don't know whether he's got another computer. It looks like he might have one down here as well. But there you go.
And an Xbox.
And an Xbox. And he's got one of these things. I love these.
What are those things?
It's a little controller that you can use. It's a Griffin PowerMate, I believe. You can actually use it to press it, spin it. It's sort of like
an Apple twiddler?
It's a jog wheel that you can use on, well, you can use it on Apple, but you can use it on your Windows machine too.
Can you? Twiddle on your window.
You can twiddle your windows as well.
Okay.
So thank you, Dylan, for sending that
Thank
along
you.
and for allowing us to make fun of your twiddler.
Uh-huh.
Now we've also got from Chris, this is his desktop setup.
Ooh.
So we've asked people to send their desktop setups, and this is one of them. Again, another Mac.
Hey, nice design.
It is a nice design. It's pretty geeky.
What's .nr?
.nr. That's a good question.
New. Who knows?
Ner.
Ner.
Netherlands? No, that's NL.
Yeah.
We'll have to
We'll
go
have
to the
look it up.
Wikipedia.
That's right. Okay.
And
Right.
that's it.
And that's it. Yay! Well, thank you for sending in your pictures of your desktops and your setups. We like to see those, of course. It's sort of like peering into your lives. You peer into our lives here at LabRas, and we get to peer back. So it's kind of fun. So you can send your pictures to,
Don't eat chickpeas after they've been smashed by a hammer at labrats.tv.
right? Or more simply,
Feedback at labrats.tv.
right, we prefer that, Don't forget when you send your pictures in to include your name and who or what is in your picture. And if it's your dog Fluffy, want to know that the Fluffy is actually is a dog or a cat, depending on how they look, as well as why they're called Fluffy in the first place.
Well,
by the way, my stepson wants to get a lizard and call him Fluffy. I'm serious. It's good. Anyway, so if he does, I'll get a picture of Fluffy the lizard.
Okay. I'm all for that.
Okay. And one final thought before we go. Don't forget, of course, we have been acquired by a company called Two Cows, and we run a new website called butterscotch.com, where that's the Lab Rat's new home at butterscotch.com. Now, we have a little giveaway here. We have new butterscotch.com t-shirts.
Chickpeas on those T-shirts too,
Yeah,
if you're
there
lucky.
So that's the brand new Butterscotch t-shirt, and we're going to send one to you if we pick your email that contains your favorite non-Lab Rats show on butterscotch.com. So
Very important. Non-Lab Rats.
Right, so you want to go, Dear Andy and Sean, my favorite non-Lab Rats Butterscotch show is, and then name the show, and then say, my favorite episode of that show is, name the episode, and then say, here's why. Okay?
I like A-List episode 3 because it's so awesome.
And it has Amber Mack in it.
And it has Amber Mack in it.
Right. Okay, so if we pick your name, we'll send you a butterscotch.com t-shirt. And we have them in all sizes.
Yeah.
How exciting. And it'll be chickpea free as well.
Thank goodness.
Yay. All right, well, that's it for Lab Rats. Thanks for downloading today or pushing play or however you got to us. My name is Andy Walker,
I'm Sean Carruthers.
and we'll see you next time.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
So I just wanted to tell you that Matt has spent the last 15 minutes trying to look up .nr.
15 minutes.
Okay,
Come on.
14 minutes trying to look up .nr on his iPhone, but it keeps auto-correcting on him. And I went over to my computer and found it in about 5 seconds.
What is it?
Nauru.
Wow,
N-A-U-R-U.
I'm impressed.
No.
Nauru. It's a little island in the Pacific.
You did it so quickly. I'm so impressed. You're my hero.
You
Have
win.
my iPhone.
And here's a chickpea.